Okay, ladies, I've started the recording if you want to take it away.
Perfect. Well, welcome everybody to our Reynoldsburg City Schools Virtual Academy Parent Webinars. This is our first of 2 webinars, and we will be sharing the same information at each webinar. As you probably just heard, we're also recording the webinars so that if you need to go back and reference anything or share anything with others who were unable to attend, you can easily do that. We're going to start with introductions tonight, just so that you know who we are. So my name is Dr. Jocelyn Cosgrave, and I am the Chief Academic Officer with Reynoldsburg City Schools. I am a proud Raider. 13 of my 18 years in education have been spent in the district, and I'm very proud of the work we do, and I absolutely love our students. So I'm excited to give you information tonight that I hope will answer a lot of your questions.
Hi, everybody. I'm Valerie Wonder. I'm the Director of Communications for Reynoldsburg City Schools. I've been with the district about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And I, too, love our community and am excited to help you guys walk through this presentation. I know you've got a lot of questions. I monitor our social media, and I am the one that sends out the information as frequently as I can. So it's important to us that we're getting you what you need when you need it. So I will do my best to make sure you guys get all your questions answered tonight.
And we also have with us a Spanish interpreter, Jackie Donley. Jackie, you want to wave? So we did go ahead and put her cell phone number and her email address up on the screen. I did want to explain how these interpretation services will work. So Jackie is going to be listening to the same presentation, and then later she will be able to translate the transcript or any other information that the families would need. So what we're asking is that our families who are going to be using her services, please, after this is done, reach out to her with questions. You can write them down during the webinar, and then you'll call her or you will email her with the questions, and she will be more than happy to help you. So she won't necessarily be doing any live translation right now, but she's just kind of here as support and to hear the same message as everyone else. And then you will be able to reach her later. Jackie, did you want to add anything?
Can I just say that in Spanish real quick?
That would be great.
Okay, hola a las familias que hablan español. Yo voy a estar escuchando al webinar y estoy disponible después para contestar todas sus preguntas. Así que me pueden llamar en ese número aquí o me mandan un correo. Estoy aquí para ayudar. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think I round out the introductions here. So my name is Tanya Samuels. I am an account executive for Ohio and Edgenuity, amongst other states. The Reynoldsburg community is one of my favorites. My best friend from high school and her kiddos live there. So have a personal connection there. And I'm coming to you from the Pittsburgh area, so not too far away. And I'm excited to be here and help answer questions. The important thing is this isn't our first time. Might be for the Reynoldsburg team, but certainly not Kara and I here tonight. We held this last week with Columbus City Schools. We've done this with Dover and a couple others. Canton Local last night and the night before. So this is our world these days, and we're excited to share what Edgenuity can do to help the families that have the concerns of staying at home and learning that way.
All right, so I thought I would just kind of go through the agenda for tonight's webinar so that you had some idea of what to expect. So we're going to just take a few moments to give you an introduction to the Virtual Academy, and it's just kind of a summary of what we put out in our guidance document. We will then get into a few more details from the district perspective, and then we will be turning it over to Tanya and her team to give some extremely detailed information about Edgenuity. At the end, we're going to be going through a lot of the questions that you submitted on the Google form in preparation for tonight, and we will answer as many of those as we can. And then finally, we will end with where do we go from here for all of you. So let's get started. So just a quick introduction, just to make sure that everyone is clear. When we are talking about our virtual academy, this is a separate experience, and it is only going to be used as an option if and when we return to any type of face-to-face learning. And so that includes our hybrid model that passed at the board meeting, and that would also include our all-in model if all students were back or half students were back. So really, this is not going to take effect immediately. This is not going to take effect until we might be back face-to-face. As you've already guessed, we have partnered with Edgenuity to create our virtual academy. And one of the things that we do know is that instruction will be delivered and supported by educators. There are two options that we have, which is one of the reasons why we chose Edgenuity as our partner. We do have an option if we would like to use our own Reynoldsburg teachers that would then use the Edgenuity curriculum and resources to provide support to students. We also have the option of using vendor instructors, which you'll hear a little bit about later, and we could use a combination of both. We have not decided if we're going to use a combination of both or our own or vendor instructors, because we really can't do that until we know how many students in each grade level are enrolling in the academy, which, as you know, the deadline for that enrollment is August 14th. Once we establish how many students we have in each grade level, we will then make the decision about whether or not we're going to use our own teachers, vendor instructors, or if we're going to use a combination. So I know that that was probably one of our most frequently asked questions on the Google form. The curriculum that Edgenuity offers is accredited and is aligned with our learning standards, the same learning standards that your students would be getting in their classrooms in our buildings. And we are asking that students commit to the model for at least a semester. And so what that means is, let's say that they, in October, for example, I'm not saying that will happen, but let's pretend that in October we get to come back face-to-face or hybrid in some capacity. They would need to at least finish that semester in Edgenuity, and then they can reevaluate whether or not they want to go back into the classroom with their classmates for the next semester. Again, this is not because we don't want to be flexible, but it's truly from the standpoint of we have to be able to staff it appropriately. And so if we have students moving in and out in a fluid way, it's extremely difficult to know how many seats we need to purchase, but also how do we staff it, both in our classrooms that we also have to serve as well as in the virtual academy. So we can go to the, next slide. So just a few more details. One of the things that you're going to be hearing about tonight is ways that you can set your students up for success at home if this is the option that you choose. So you're going to be hearing a lot about setting up a learning space for your student at home, and you're also going to be hearing about how you as a parent can monitor how your student is doing in the courses in the Edgenuity program. A couple of things that we wanted to make clear up front. We have a lot of questions about schedules. We are going to be automatically enrolling any student in the virtual academy into the same courses that they would typically take if they were in the school. physically. So now there are a couple of situations where we offer extremely unique courses where we might have to substitute a course that's for the same credit for high school. Obviously, the elementary students don't have credits, but we of course would allow the parent and the student to help determine which course they would like to sign up for if there is not a perfect match. We've also been working really hard with and talking to our technology department so that we can make sure that if students are in band, orchestra, or choir, they are still going to be able to take those courses with our teachers no matter what we decide, and be able to log into those classes from a live stream situation, because we know that that's something that's important to our students and families, and honestly, like, our teachers would love that too. So even if your child is enrolled in one of those courses, they will still be able to participate in those courses with their regular teacher. We do attempt to get families to follow a typical daily schedule when possible. So you're going to get to hear a little bit about what a typical schedule means. And they'll give you those guidelines so that you have some idea. And then finally, we are still really aware that we need to make sure our students are still feeling a part of their school community. We don't ever want them to feel like they're shoved to the side if they're in the virtual academy, or they're on their own and don't get to interact with their school community or their classroom community. And so one of the expectations that we will be giving to our teachers is that they will always invite the students who would have been on their roster in person to still attend any non-academic school functions or events or activities. So a great example, one of the things that we will be requiring of our elementary teachers is that we are running a morning meeting every morning, just like you typically would in a regular time. So we would still want the students in the virtual academy, for example, to have the opportunity to log in and have morning meeting with their class so that they feel a part of that. And if we're back face to face, of course, you know, we will also use streaming technology for that. Assemblies at school, same way. So just please know that we are going to make every effort to make sure that the students that sign up for the virtual academy still are Raiders and know that they are loved by us and are welcome back as soon as they're ready and you feel comfortable with that as a family. Okay, so with that being said, I think we can go to, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya and her team. She has some great information that I think is going to answer a lot of the questions that all of you have submitted. So Tanya.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that introduction. And what I want to do tonight is kind of split this into two sections. There is an obvious difference between Edgenuity K-5, kindergarten through 5th grade, and the 6th grade through 12th grade piece. And the key piece here is the first thing would be the learning coach. That would be the parent or guardian or whomever is going to be with the students throughout the day as they're working. I've heard some really creative ideas of neighborhood kids in pods, and one mom is responsible for each day of the week and helping the students. So they're creating their own small little mini school program while they're all working online. And that learning coach has some responsibilities, as you can imagine, for our littles in K-5. Certainly the, the piece of let's make sure that we have our workbooks and our crayons and our materials, and it's time to get online and be working. Your role is key, along with the virtual instructor, whether that be through Edgenuity or through the district. That's a key piece to this implementation. Certainly at the 6-12 level, parents are going to have to be involved, and we know that, but the materials are much less at that level. The other important piece at K-5 is the offline workbooks piece. And we'll talk a little bit about that and give examples of that piece. But those are going to be huge when a student is working to develop skills. So when you think about a student that's in kindergarten and just the task of writing their name at the top of the page and what that means, and writing a letter with the right form and the right height, and making sure that they have ruled paper to do that. So I think, you know, that is a piece that really helps set Edgenuity apart, is that you do have that offline curriculum. So when you look at the curriculum itself, it is engaging, it is interactive. They'll have video instruction that can be cartoon based at their interest level to keep them engaged. And then certainly culminating that and combining that with some teacher-led video instruction, and then furthermore supported and independent practice, preparing the student for the end of lesson assessment. And so that is extremely important at that K-5 level. And we spell it out really well with learning coach guides. And at the beginning of each lesson, you know, spelling out what does that learning coach need to worry about as far as supplies go. When we look at the courses offered, all of the 4 core areas are there: language arts, science, math, and social studies. And then the student has the ability to choose up to 2 electives. And so again, making that semester commitment, at the end of that first semester, I might make the decision to go back to the school building, or I might say, you know, instead of art, I'm going to take music and health. And so you have the ability and the flexibility to kind of make that change at the semester break. So that is, you know, another great benefit. The other thing here is when we look at this, I think about you know, my nephew entering the 3rd grade, and although he's in 3rd grade, he's a high flyer in math. And that might be the case for your students. I know there was a lot of questions surrounding gifted. And the same goes for students that may have an IEP. You can choose to do work at a higher or a lower grade level. And oftentimes it isn't that I would enroll my nephew in the 5th grade math course, but I could pull course curriculum from 5th grade into that 3rd grade curriculum to challenge him and to keep the interest level high. And the same goes for students. I mean, Q4 of last year was craziness, right? We're still in that craziness. And so what happens for a student that doesn't do much over the summer, and then we culminate that with the COVID craziness of Q4, and now the teacher has the ability to pull in those skills and really make sure that students get personalized learning. And so when we look at this list, I always like to point that out. When you look at your schedule, again, this is suggested time on task for K-5. We have another little chart for 6 through 12. But you'll see in the language arts piece, an hour to an hour and 25 minutes or so, an hour and 15 minutes. And you'll see that the reason there is your spelling words, your vocabulary, some reading assignments. That's where you're going to spend a majority of your time, because those extended activities are included within the ELA curriculum. You'll also see that 45 to 60 minutes in math, 30 to 45 in social studies and science, and then only a couple days a week in the electives courses. So, you know, when you look at this, this is pretty much a typical day in the life of a student at the elementary level, no different than what you would expect. However, the way of learning is where the difference lies. So you'll see in all courses, the video instruction, whether that be the panda bear that you see here or that teacher instruction. But like I said, you're going to have instruction, you're going to have supported and independent practice, And then we're going to support the student through that. And I'll show you a couple of examples. This right here is a great example. You'll see that the text to speech button is there, so I can hear this read aloud. Obviously important at those lower grade levels. And when I get into my course, very easy. Again, you'll see so many commonalities across the K-12 curriculum, but yet there are differences. For the littler students, younger students, we need to make sure that we have a picture there to help them guide them into the right course. And so I know numbers, that's my math class. I see my start and my target date for completion. I can also see where I am versus where I should be and how I'm doing in the course. Immediately, my eye is drawn to science because that score is in red. So that tells me I need to get my butt in gear. I'm a little bit behind. I'm a little bit struggling. So again, we'll talk about communication and reaching out to your teachers to make sure that you get the help that you need. When we look at the instruction that is within the curriculum, I think that, you know, this is a good example of what a lesson looks like. And I'm gonna kind of switch gears and get into this curriculum and show you that you can switch the colors of the background. And just like I showed you before, the learning coach guide is there. So we're gonna be learning about circle graphs. We're gonna divide items into multiple groups and place them into that circle graph. And then we're going to use red, orange, yellow, and green crayons. And also gives a little note about how you can use this throughout the week, what the student needs. If it's a spelling word, maybe the word is apple, as you're at the grocery store, kind of find that and move the student through that. The worksheet then goes right along with the video. So as I'm watching the video, I can see that a little icon comes up, time to write, and I have the link to my video. And so on here, I can see Candy the clown. She was in that video, and she was telling me about circle graphs. And then I use what I've learned in the video to color the circle graph with the 2 red, 1 orange, 1 yellow. Taking it a little bit further, the hats that Candy was wearing in the video, and then the balls that Candy was juggling within the video. So just very quickly outlining what a student would see within the curriculum. Oops. As we progress forward, you'll see that those teacher videos are extremely important as well. So Mrs. Brady can draw this out. I love this piece. Students can pause, they can rewind. I can pause and say, I'm gonna go run and get my workbook, and making sure that the student understands what they're learning. Obviously, the help of the learning coach is key here. You'll also see the offline workbook activities. Some of the examples that I've already shared, writing your letters, writing your numbers, coloring, all of that is important at that lower grade level. And then providing the support. And you'll see across the curriculum, this is an outstanding tool. I'm sure Jackie will appreciate that there is a translation tool here. And so I do have an example of what that looks like. You can highlight the text and have that translated into your native language and even hear that read aloud. So you'll also see that those video transcripts are there. So even parents where English may be a second language, they can see what is included within that lesson by using that translation feature. You'll also have access to a wealth of other tools, a glossary, a dictionary, a picture dictionary, screen masking tool, And those will all make more sense as I give you examples of those. Text to speech, and this is across the K-12 curriculum, but these are specifically being highlighted within the K-5 piece at this time. You'll also see the dictionary support. The picture dictionary is important at that lower grade level. You'll see a facial expression and a mathematical expression. And then here's, like I said, the translation tool. So extremely helpful for students that need that. When we talk about the learning coach support, I think the most important piece of that would be communication, and certainly reaching out when you have a question, making sure that your student is staying on schedule and on pace. Making sure that you're uploading those workbook pages. All you have to do is take a picture and upload that right within Edgenuity. That ensures fidelity. So we are making sure that the student is doing the work, that the teacher is getting the information they need to make sure that the student is understanding what they're doing in that online environment. The other piece is materials. So there is a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, there is project-based learning spread throughout the curriculum. This is what students love. We know that the hands-on aspect is so important. I remember one of those questions within that someone had noted. Basically, these are common household items. A lot of times a teacher would bring the class together to do these. You'll also see that some of these things you may not have. Again, it's all about communication. So we need to make sure. When do you reach out to the teacher? Maybe a student is having a hard time understanding a concept. Maybe they're falling behind. Maybe it's too easy or too hard. And certainly questions. I'm not sure how to upload that document. I'm not sure, why haven't you responded to the workbook page? I think all of those things, if you're asking questions, makes life a lot easier for everyone involved. And certainly we talked about this in the beginning a little bit, preparing a learning space. You see where I'm sitting today. I'm sitting up straight. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm sitting in a work environment that promotes learning and conversation. However, there are times, like I said, that a student would want to sit somewhere else. Maybe you want to sit outside on the swing and read your book, or you want to sit in the beanbag chair and do that writing assignment. We understand that's important. For your younger students, I would always suggest that you create a wall space and make that something that you're proud of, something that you're working on. Create an environment for learning. When we look at setting a schedule, I feel like this was the #1 question asked. What does this look like? And this is a suggested schedule. Certainly your morning meeting could be at 7:30 a.m. It could be at 11 a.m. The biggest thing is that you could do this on Sunday, you could do this on Wednesday, but you have to be working. Motivation is so important in an online environment. So we use this schedule for recommended times, 60 to 75 minutes in language arts. Then we take a little break, play a game, exercise, move around. In math, we do about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And then we have lunch. Then we do some science, get up, walk around, take a brain break, as I like to call them. Social studies, 30 to 45 minutes, and then take a break. And then we focus on our electives. And then always culminating in an afternoon meeting. I heard Dr. Cosgrove say about, that morning meeting. That would be covered if you're involved in the school building. But in the afternoon, I always like to kind of wrap things up. What did we learn today? What's on our to-do list for tomorrow? And you know, what's going on? What has happened today that we need to make sure that we do better tomorrow? And kind of just wrapping our hands around that. I always remember the family that told me about their experience with online learning and making sure that it works for you. They were a family that did chores together in the morning. They weren't able to do that if the kids had to get on the bus. But with online learning, everyone was together. We did chores. We ate our breakfast together. We got started on schoolwork. It was much more time together and less focus on go, 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 run, run, run. And so, that's what worked for them. When we look at Edgenuity and we move to the 6 through 12 courseware, you'll see many commonalities. Kara, is there any reason to stop, take a breather, answer any questions that are specific to Edgenuity Elementary?
Thanks, Tanya. That was a great overview. We had a couple of questions regarding the uploading of the worksheets, the assignments. So let me just address that quickly. These can get into the system through any kind of electronic file. Most popularly, the parents or guardians are taking a photo with their cell phones and then uploading it directly into the system. So any kind of JPEG folder is fine. If your students are using a device that has a camera on it, you can also hold, that device over it, take a picture, and upload it into the system. So again, typically there are JPEG folders. If you have a scanner, that of course works too, but again, usually it's a cell phone snapshot, and that works just fine. All the materials, that you'll need, that your student will need, they're built in the system, meaning you upload directly into your student's curriculum, and then that assignment goes right to the teacher. When it comes to the independent reading assignments, the record tool is directly built into the system. One other thing I want to put out there, I'm going to put it in the chat box, so everybody keep their eyes open on the chat box. There are some K-5 parent resources that we have. Now again, I do want to reiterate that Reynoldsburg is only going to utilize this option once face-to-face reopens if you choose as a parent to keep your student fully virtual. We have a lot of questions about, times and going in and out and moving to hybrid models. So a lot of these are going to be district questions. I'll go through and see if I can find any other Edgenuity specific questions, but one thing I really want to put in there are these parent resources, so you can look through the curriculum itself, the learning coach guides, setting up a schedule, some how-to videos. And again, teachers from Edgenuity or from local schools, that also is yet to be determined. Quick note about our Edgenuity certified teachers. They are going to be Ohio certified. They're highly qualified, vetted, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody from the Reynoldsburg administration, but the only reason why Reynoldsburg would partner with Ohio certified teachers from Edgenuity would be if they didn't have the staff or capacity at Reynoldsburg to adequately serve you. One of the questions I got here is, will teachers be available 8 hours a day? If teachers are expected to teach in classroom and virtual, that wouldn't be an option. The teachers at Reynoldsburg that are doing in classroom wouldn't be there for you during the day. So that would be a reason why Reynoldsburg would partner with Edgenuity instructors. So you as parents would have someone to call, text, schedule a web conference with during the working hours. So again, we'll just have to wait and see how many students are interested in the fully virtual option. And I can speak all day to the quality of our virtual instructors. I have no doubt Reynoldsburg would do an amazing job too. If they do utilize Reynoldsburg teachers, we will train them on how to adequately use this software. They can learn from our experience in teaching it, but just hoping that you all can feel a little bit more comfortable with either option.
Thank you so much, Kara. You're doing an awesome job. The questions are flying in, and she, like always, does an awesome job of answering and helping me to moderate this. I think another key point is many of you are asking the same questions. Make sure that you're referring to that Q&A document that we've put out there. Kara and I helped the Reynoldsburg team to put that together. So you'll see that there are questions specific to Edgenuity that we've already answered. So that's why if your question isn't being answered tonight, you need to refer to that Q&A document. What I'll do is I will transition into the 6 through 12 curriculum. Like I said, you'll see a wealth of commonalities. The rigor is there. Again, the support is there to help students. The customization and flexibility is outstanding. And then obviously as a parent, even as a school building, data and reporting is so important. When a student logs in, they can, just like the elementary curriculum, access this anytime, anywhere from any device, as long as you do have internet service. So that is important to note. Student dashboard, wow, looks pretty similar, right? The only thing missing here is the pictures, because we hope at 6th grade that the student knows what language arts is. So we'll see that they can quickly click within the course, or there's some metrics here that are important. I know when I was teaching with Edgenuity, it was one of those things where, hey mom, you want to see how your student's doing and you didn't get that report yet? Look over their shoulder, have them log in, and you can quickly see on their dashboard where they are, where they should be, what their overall grade is. And we'll talk a little bit about that. That was another question that I know I had answered earlier this afternoon. So once I click into my course, this is one of my favorite pieces, the course map. So based on that start and target date, we are providing the student with a day-by-day guide, a pacing guide as to what they need to be working on. We know at the 6-12 level, it's a little bit more student focused. The learning coach kind of has to step back a little bit, doesn't have those same heavy lifting responsibilities, if you will. No more crayons at the 6-12 level. And you'll see that the course map here does a lot of things. So I have to go through the warm-up before I can go through the instruction, the summary, assignment, and quiz. So I need to make sure that I go through this in sequential order. And we do provide the student with the time, approximate time that it takes to get through that. So you'll see we're recommending an hour or so per course per day. And so you'll see that that's about 5 to 8 hours per day based on the number of courses that you have in order to stay on track. So, you know, this will create that pacing guide for you, and really make sure that if, you know, Reynoldsburg has a day scheduled off, that day does not populate work on your calendar, but it does allow you to work if you want to. So even on the weekends when it doesn't populate work, you could still have that as a part of your schedule. If you're behind, like I am, I haven't been working this summer as much as I should have been. I'm 27 activities behind, and that's going to take me about a day to get caught up. So you can see that there. The other thing I'll point out is that same icon, that time to write icon. In the 6 through 12 curriculum, that's your guided notes, and we'll take a look at what that looks like in just a couple minutes. The curriculum, wow, it looks pretty similar, right? Video instruction by a teacher. This is amazing. The ability to pause and rewind. I wish I had this when I was in school. Working through that math problem, it's not just text on a page. The teacher is pre-recorded, walking the student through the lesson, so I can pause and rewind. The teacher is pointing out any misconceptions and also spiraling in things that I may have taught in the lesson prior. So building that prior knowledge, bringing those skills back to the students' forefront of their mind, and making sure that, you know, the student has the tools that they need in the instruction in order to do the supported and independent practice. You'll also see that unlike the K-5 curriculum, there are no ancillary materials except for AP courses as required by the College Board. So all of your reading materials will be included within the Edgenuity curriculum, embedded within. So when I click on read this passage, it opens up this close reader tool. I have some of those same supports. I'm able to look up any words I don't know. I can take notes in the margins. I can highlight, and I can certainly hear this read aloud. You'll also see that for your students that don't speak English as their first language, we do have over 60 different languages that we have available for translation. And so you'll see those that are highlighted at the bottom are also available in the read aloud function. So this is something that we're very proud of. We know this is something that sets us apart. So no matter what course you're in, you have those language translations available for you. Guided notes, I promised you that these would be coming. So unlike the elementary curriculum, where workbooks are required, this is an added bonus, as I like to call it. Our teachers at Edgenuity don't require it, but I certainly know that when a student is struggling, the first thing they ask is, did you do those guided notes within the lesson? We know students struggle. We may have even students on tonight with us. We know that you struggle with note taking. I probably didn't learn how to take good notes until it was my senior year. And that was just too late, but I certainly used those skills as I went throughout, and even today, I still use those skills. Pulling out what is important, pulling out those vocabulary words. My favorite is this biology lesson. It tells you what slide I can get that information from, and I just have to watch that information to fill out my worksheet. Use this as you're going through the lesson. And I know with these animal cells, I would never have drawn this out and labeled this if this was not provided to me. Now that it's provided to me, I know that it's important, and I'm going to go that extra step because ultimately I'm creating a resource for myself. And so that is important. Also, we know when you write it down, you're more apt to remember it, right? So the guided notes were released about 2 years ago. Many schools were creating these on their own, and they've definitely been a huge benefit for students. We did a case study of a school district right here in Ohio, and the students that took Edgenuity outperformed the students in the regular brick and mortar school building on the end of course Algebra 1 assessment. Why do you think that is? They have the ability to pause, to rewind, the guided notes. And so when you look at those metrics, certainly it is an awesome thing to see that Edgenuity helps students to learn, whether you're a high flyer or you're an IEP student that really needs those supports to help you gather and get the information. You'll also see that we have released these for the middle school courses just in April prior to COVID. And so that was a huge undertaking that we are certainly proud of, and we know how beneficial those are to students. You'll also see that the writing practice is important. These are low stakes. Did you explain why the ratio is not a fraction? I click submit, and it's a self-check. Did you include X, Y, and Z in your response? Ultimately, We're preparing the student for the explicit writing process, pre-writing, rough draft, final draft. Teachers leave feedback. I have that feedback as I'm going through the process of writing. So by the time I get to the final draft, I should have something good to submit. Virtual and hands-on labs. Another great piece that's in the curriculum that I get to practice that I still would have got in the regular school building without having to have all the supplies. Put on my goggles to protect my eyes from the chemicals that I'm going to pour virtually into a beaker. And then do the lab report based on the experiment that I've just done. You'll also see interactive tasks. This is one of my favorite pieces because everything's built within the system. So if I need a graphing calculator, Edgenuity knows you need a graphing calculator, and it's built within your course. You'll also see that we use the Desmos calculator, which students use on state testing. And oftentimes we know that it isn't that the student doesn't know how to solve the problem, it's that they don't know how to use the manipulative. So we're providing students with the ability to utilize those technology enhanced items and practice as they move along. Real world connections. My students would always say, why do I need to know this? This has nothing to do with what I'm doing after high school. And building that connection of what's going on in the world today. Building the diverse texts, authors, examples, and especially what's going on in the world today, a variety of perspectives. That's so important. And our expert teachers do a great job of that. I love that we also mix it up as well. So if in geometry lesson 1, I might have Veronica, but geometry lesson 2, Bill is teaching that lesson. And so, you know, that is extremely important that students get different perspectives as they go through the curriculum. Virtual field trips, totally awesome and engaging. Students will, you know, not have to read what the Globe Theater is. They can actually see that it appears as if our teacher is at the Globe Theater. And then we are making sure that we talk about the architecture, and even in the virtual museum exhibit, what artifacts are there? And, you know, what does a virtual museum exhibit look like? And so I think that is important and engaging. When we look at projects at the middle school and high school level, this is one that I like, Romeo and Juliet. Did the student comprehend what they've read? It allows them to use some of their creativity as they go through the lesson. Remember, as it follows that structure of a warm-up, instruction, summary, assignment, and quiz. These are some of the things that you'll find within the lesson across the curriculum that make it engaging. Even for your middle school and high school students, prepare a learning space, a desk, a counter, a table, a workspace to promote learning. And certainly different seating options are important. And I would always say, instead of a wall, maybe you create a brag binder. I had one of these, I still have it. It is a keepsake that I hold on to. All the fun art projects that I did, all the important, you know, research that I did. And then, you know, I think about the time that I interviewed for my first job, and I took that brag binder along with me, and I had done research on retail spending. And of course I got that job in retail. I think it was just because of that research that I had done. And certainly even college entrance, having that brag binder with the resources that you've created for yourself. Setting a schedule looks a little bit different, not much, but a little bit. Discuss your goals for the day. Think about your to-do list. Spend an hour or so within language arts, take a break, an hour or so within each subject. And then cool down is what I like to call it. Make your list for tomorrow, close things up, school's over. And so again, we received a lot of questions about time on task. And I want to point out there are some times that you might have a language arts paper due. Thoughts are flowing. I don't want to stop and do math today. That's okay. Keep working on language arts, but make sure that math you spend a little bit more time in tomorrow if you don't do it today. That's the biggest thing. It's so easy to put this off and not be working. You'll also see that if Reynoldsburg chooses to partner with Edgenuity teachers, we do offer some differences. And because we are a company of many educators, we have the ability to offer some things outside what the school would be able to offer. And we'll clear that stuff up as we know how many students are interested. But you'll see that regardless of whether you are with a Reynoldsburg teacher or an Edgenuity teacher, they're going to have some tasks, some responsibilities. They will have office hours. So during a certain time of day is when I do my grading and when I do my reteaching and when I respond. Setting that expectation is really key. So if you're working at midnight, know that your teacher probably isn't working at midnight and you're going to have to wait for a response. The other piece that Edgenuity offers, I told you there would be a little bit of difference here, is concept coaches. I know that Reynoldsburg is still going to offer tutors for students, but Edgenuity also offers tutors available Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. So that's important to point out. And I would welcome you to utilize that. It's really important that you communicate. I know that that is a common theme for tonight, but if you have questions, you know to ask. If you have questions about expectations, and I know Reynoldsburg will do a great job of setting those expectations for how long does a teacher have to grade my assignment? How long should I expect them to respond to an email that I sent? And so that is important for everyone to know their expectations up front. Just to show you what that online tutoring looks like, I say I need help. I can chat with a concept coach, and immediately I always say it goes from 0 to 500 miles an hour. I did my guided notes. I still don't understand. Help me work out this math problem. And so whether we take you back into the curriculum to help you find where it is explained how to solve that problem and go through that together on the interactive whiteboard. I know many of you families have been waiting for this question to be answered about student progress. Reports can be sent daily, weekly, or monthly to families. In addition to our parent portal, that progress is important. And like I said, you can see that on the dashboard as well. You'll see that this is a great example. Here's my student, 7.3% complete. I can see on the graph that I'm behind. I should be at 23% complete. And then the overall grade, for what I've done thus far, I'm doing great. But because I am so far behind, my actual grade is a 27. So that's a key metric when we're looking at the student and what they've done versus what they should have done. And showing the true grade that they've earned because they are so far behind. You'll also see that we share the engagement piece. And so when you're at work and can't be watching over the student's shoulder, I always told my students, Big Brother is watching. I think it's important to be able to see And if we have students here tonight, I would advise that you take note of this. We can see that you were working in the system in algebra for 28 minutes and 2 activities were completed. 53 minutes in biology and 5 activities were completed, and you were only idle for 7 minutes. That's great. What would not be great is if I saw 55 minutes idle. So when you're not working, you want to make sure that you log out for security reasons, and also so that idle time isn't calculating for you. We will turn it over to Reynoldsburg, and certainly I will at this point just ask Kara if there's any other questions that we need to address following our presentation.
Thanks. Yes, lots of district questions, lots of registration questions, lots of, you know, what's the transition going to look like if we start one way and then go another way. Lots of questions about what's the plan from RCS for schools not opening at all, for the district being 100% virtual. And again, just to clarify, this will only be an option if the schools reopen and you decide to keep your student at home and be part of a fully virtual academy. So does anyone from the RCS administration want to talk about school reopening and what things look like as of right now? We know that this is one option if schools reopen, but what is school going to look like? We have a lot of parents asking and maybe a little confused about going fully remote for the start of school and then this choice.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, everyone is starting online at the beginning of the year, all grade levels. This virtual academy option that we're talking about tonight, where we're partnering with Edgenuity, is only the option once we are in some type of hybrid or face-to-face model. So when students start school, they are not going to be on Edgenuity. We are going to be using a common platform, Google Classroom, that our own teachers have been preparing lessons and putting information online. And next week, we're going to be releasing a ton of different guidance documents for families and students related to how we will start the year. So that you will be getting that information next week, but it will be done through Google Classroom. The lessons will be created by teachers. It will look very, very different than it did in the spring. In the spring, we were really on survival mode, just trying to get by, and we have had plenty of time to plan to make instruction and teaching and learning a lot more robust for the fall. We've been planning for this for a long time. So I know that some people are still confused. This option is only if and when we return to some type of face-to-face or hybrid model. Okay. Kara, did you have other questions you wanted to address before we move into the Q&A submissions that people put on the Google form?
A lot of questions about this has been asked a few different times about the model. Is it synchronous? Is it asynchronous? So K through 12 is primarily asynchronous. The students are able to log in whenever they can log in. For those of you who are working during the day or working part-time, if your student can't start school till 10 o'clock, that's fine. When you're looking at time commitments, and I believe Tanya went over this, you know, K to 5, you're looking at a heavier focus in ELA and math with about a half hour each day in science and social studies, and then 6 to 12, 50 minutes per subject per day. So you'll know what your pacing is based on the assignment calendars, and we'll have progress bars listed on your dashboard, so everybody will be fully aware where the student is in the course and where they need to be, and the target dates for each semester course are going to be determined by Reynoldsburg. Let's see if I missed anything. If anybody would like to see lesson samples of Edgenuity 6 to 12, I'm happy to post that in the chat box. And again, lots of specific questions about, you know, children moving from one thing to another, or if they sign up, how do they not sign up, and things like that. So we'll just leave those to the district. I think with our remaining time, we should definitely get to those questions that were asked ahead of time.
Okay, thank you, Kara. And actually, you did awesome because you already answered our first question. So I get to skip that one now because you just talked about what this looks like and will it be at their own pace and things like that. So one of the questions that we received quite a few times on our Google form was how are quizzes and tests handled in the Virtual Academy? And I was going to let Tanya talk a little bit about how that specific piece works in the program.
Sure. The quizzes are at the end of each lesson. There are 10 questions. Students will have about 60 minutes to complete those. At the end of each unit, you'll have a unit test, and those are 20 questions approximately. And then at the end of each semester, that's why you're making the semester commitment, is a cumulative exam. And so there's a couple different ways that we can do that, but typically, to make sure that the student is doing it with fidelity, there's things that we have in place. Teachers know what to ask and how to do that. And there's, a wealth of things that we can do to make sure that this is being done with fidelity. But that's how those are kind of outlined within the system.
And Tanya, I know for the next question, we've had a lot of, inquiries about attendance. So I think you were going to answer part and then I was going to answer part, but I think you talked a little bit about how this system keeps track of their minutes and how it keeps track of their engagement. And so we will use that information as a district to follow the state's attendance guidelines. The Ohio Department of Education tells us how we take attendance. We had to fill out what's called a remote learning plan and submit it to the Ohio Department of Education to tell how we will take attendance. And so we will be making sure that students are logging on every day and that they're engaging with their work based on the Edgenuity reports. Did you want to add anything else to that, Tanya?
No, I think you did a great job, and I made sure to cover that because there were so many questions about that.
Yep. Another question we received, will electives courses be available? So again, when students are registered for the Virtual Academy, we will do everything we can to enroll them into the same courses with Edgenuity as they would have had in their traditional year. So they do have electives courses. Every once in a while, we offer something unique to Reynoldsburg. And so we might need to substitute something that we would allow parents and students to have input to help us make that decision. We wouldn't make that decision on your behalf. And then again, the exception, and I saw this in the chat, band, orchestra, and choir are still going to be taught by our own teachers. That is one set of electives courses that we will not be moving to Edgenuity. We want our own teachers to be able to teach those courses. Tons of questions we noticed in the Google form and also in the chat. Will you be issued a Chromebook, and what if you have more than one child? So yes, so when your students start school in the fall, they are going to be issued a Chromebook if you need one, if you choose to have one. And in the spring, when we did that, we really couldn't offer every single student one. In some cases, like if we had a family who had 4 or 5 students, we would try to limit them to 2 or 3 Chromebooks just because we weren't completely one-to-one yet. We have since fixed that, and we have ordered more Chromebooks so that every single student can have a Chromebook. So in the fall, when your child picks up their Chromebook and you use the Chromebook, if you were to then enroll in the virtual or start the Virtual Academy, you would just keep that same Chromebook and use it. So we will be providing that technology to each student in the Virtual Academy, as well as when you start in the fall. Questions about students with IEPs. So IEPs are, we have to follow them by law. We don't have an option. So, we already know that even if we choose the route of using Edgenuity's instructors, we are definitely going to have to provide some supports as well on our end, some additional supports to make sure that minutes and accommodations are being met. Again, like Tanya said, Edgenuity instructors are licensed teachers, so they're used to working with all types of students, IEP students, gifted students, but we also know that we're going to have to provide some support, but we will honor every IEP, every accommodation to the best of our ability, because again, that's the law, and that's what we're required to do, and that's what we want to do. Did you have anything else to add for that one, Tanya?
Yeah, I think, obviously I talked briefly about customization and flexibility. And so that's something that is so important to Edgenuity, the wealth of accommodations and modifications that can be made based on the IEP and what is written there. We work really closely with school districts across the state, across the country. We have school districts that partner with us specifically for students that have an IEP because of all the supports that are in there, the video instruction, the self-paced work when you can, and that type of thing. So we do a really good job of handling that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I've noticed, Kara, this is a question that you've been getting quite a bit. And you've said, this is a district question, so I finally get to answer. Will there be any continuity when we go from an online model to start the virtual academy? Will they have new teachers? Will they have different resources? So obviously there is going to be some transitional things that we're going to work out. But I guess what I would say is that, we have curriculum maps where we have taken Ohio's learning standards, the things that your children have to learn every year by grade level and by content area. We have those maps, and our teachers follow those maps when they are instructing your students. So they're broken down by, here's what we need to learn first quarter, here's what we need to learn second quarter, etc. We are going to be sharing those curriculum maps with Edgenuity so that they can then align the curriculum and the content that the instructors can with where the students leave off. So let's say we start in October, it would be very easy on our curriculum maps to look and see what have we already covered with students, and then what do we still need to cover, and adjust accordingly so that there isn't a lot of learning taking place that maybe either already occurred, and so that we don't have gaps in learning. Will they have new teachers? We just aren't sure yet, but will the resources be a little different? Yes. The teachers they're using Google Classroom. For elementary, they'll use Seesaw or iReady. There's some other things that we'll be using. Those things will not be used in the virtual academy. We will just be solely dependent on the curriculum offered by Edgenuity. And then the next question, the question actually is, will RCS be instituting a call line for parents? And actually, there will be a call line. However, it's run through Edgenuity as a part of our service contract. So Tanya, I know you kind of talked about that a little bit, but I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a case where, our customer support team does a great job of helping students and families, whether that be a technical question or, like I showed you in my presentation, helping students, to get through the curriculum and guiding them where to find an answer and how to learn online. So those concept coaches and our customer support team do a great job of supporting students.
And then of course, if you're having an issue with one of our Chromebooks, we have an IT help desk that would help you with that, just like in the spring. And then one more slide of Q&A submissions. We want to go to the next one. Will my child lose their school of choice slot if we sign up? This is a great question. As I stated earlier, we consider all of our students, virtual academy or not, a part of our school communities, and we would never allow them to lose their slot at their school of choice. So that is not something that I want you as parents to worry about at all. If they are a Summit Elementary student, or if they're a Herbert Mills Elementary student or Baldwin or any of our schools of choice, they will always be accepted into that school for the remainder of the year, and then moving forward if that's what you choose, whether they are picking the virtual academy or not. So again, you'll still be getting communication from the principals of those buildings, and you'll still be getting communication from the teachers. So that will not change. Expected response time, Tanya hit on that actually earlier, and she just kind of explained if it's the Edgenuity teachers, then of course they have certain work hours. If we decide that we're going to have our Reynoldsburg teachers take on some of the courses, they still have to work their 7 3/4 hours that they're contracted to work. And so I would say that the response time should be pretty quick if it's during the school day. Obviously, they have other students on their caseload as well. Obviously, if it's after hours, it might be the next business day. What about the hands-on aspect? So Tanya talked a little bit about that in the lab simulations. And I also know that there's some project-based learning components that are embedded, which is one of the reasons why we chose Edgenuity as our partner, because that's important to us in Reynoldsburg. I didn't know if you wanted to go into any more depth about that, Tanya.
I like to just point out that, those are the things that students love. Those are the things that you can do together as a family. It doesn't have to be the student doing that project on their own. And so you can really get creative with that. And our teachers will certainly promote that, type of learning. So whether that be as a group or whether that be on your own, those are built within the system.
And then we had quite a few questions about what PE specifically looks like. Of course, that's a graduation requirement in Ohio. And we do have some other options with Credit Flex locally as well. But do you want to talk a little bit about PE specifically?
Sure, we have a wealth of health and PE courses. So whether it be contemporary health or personal fitness, lifetime fitness, that would require the student to do some online work and research, and obviously that offline activity, and providing students with different examples. Okay, you don't have weights, let's lift candles, let's lift soup cans, let's lift a cantaloupe. And so just getting students active and providing common ways around the house so that it is a lifestyle change, not just a have to do this within the gym class.
All right, so just a couple more questions. Asking questions about flexibility of enrollment. We do wish that we could be even more flexible than what we're already being. The fact that we are allowing our students to go ahead and start the year with their own class and their own teachers is a little bit unique. There are a lot of districts who are just starting the virtual academy from day one. But we felt like it was important that our students establish that teacher-student relationship for down the road, or just to feel more of a part of a classroom community in Reynoldsburg. Any more flexibility than that would create huge challenges that we could never overcome with staffing and with scheduling. So that is why that we are asking for a semester commitment. Again, some districts are asking for a year commitment. We're at least trying to provide the flexibility for a semester commitment so that if things change, or if comfort levels change, or parent or home situations change, we can at least help you at that point. But it is a semester commitment, and that's a non-negotiable. The one exception to that, I suppose, would be if a student becomes medically fragile, or if a student all of a sudden went from being medically fragile to be allowed to be released to a face-to-face option. We do have an appeal process for that, for those particular instances where a doctor's note could be provided. What if my student is enrolled in CCP courses? So again, all of the schedules will be the same for students. And so let's say you have a child who they're a senior and they really only need to take maybe like a math class for their final credit, and they were planning on taking it with Reynoldsburg, but then they're taking a comp class for their 4th English credit, a composition class with a college. They will still take the composition class with the college, and then they will take their math course with Edgenuity if they're signed up for the virtual academy. Because our college partners are also going online, it'll still be an online experience anyway, no matter whether we are back to like a hybrid or a face-to-face model, or if they're doing the virtual academy. I guess the exception to that would be, we do have some Reynoldsburg teachers who are licensed to teach the college classes. And if that's the case, then of course they could take their course face-to-face if they chose. But we are working with our college partners on that. And so your children will still be able to take the courses for the credit with no problem, whether they're in the virtual academy or not. 3 more questions. What does state testing look like? We don't know. The state has not told us yet. What I can guarantee you is that the same standards that you would need to provide to students to prepare for the state test are provided, no matter whether they're in the virtual academy or whether we are using our teachers. But we just aren't sure what state testing looks like. We do have an assessment plan for students who are coming back face-to-face or hybrid, and it's reduced just due to everything going on, and we've been working on that anyway. But of course, the state testing is yet to be determined. What about gifted classes? Tanya, you already kind of hit on that with some of the options and the personalization and the flexibility. I guess from a local standpoint, of course, gifted students all have their plan, their WEP or their WAP, and so we still honor those just as we would with a student with an IEP, and also the same with our students who are our ESL population. All of those different plans will be honored. Some of the supports come from Edgenuity, and some of it comes from the course instructor and or the district. And then our last question. Can you talk about extracurriculars? Will my student still be able to participate and play sports and all of that? Yes, absolutely. That is, if you are in the virtual academy, that does not change for you. You can still participate in any activity offered by the district as long as you deem it to be safe for you based on whether they're meeting face-to-face or online. So what we did not answer every single question, as you can probably imagine. We received hundreds of questions, but what we did do is we took the data and looked to see what were the most common questions and tried to address those. I guess the last thing we have is next steps, but before I do that, Tanya or Kara, did you have anything else to add from the Q&A?
I think you all addressed this. And I apologize, I was typing a bunch, and thank you all for your great questions, but how to address the social emotional needs of the students.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm sorry if you touched on that, but maybe just to reiterate, that would be for, the reopening of school, just being fully online. And then also, what about students that choose to be in this remote option when schools reopen?
Yeah, and I do know that Edgenuity has actually some great resources for SEL, and I guess you guys can talk about that. But really that social emotional learning piece, that's really why we wanted to make sure that the students in the virtual academy are still staying connected to their classroom community. Across our district, we have requirements of teachers that they are engaging students in social emotional learning, and that a lot of times happens through morning meetings. It happens during E&I periods at the high school. It happens in a variety of ways with structured lessons and activities and school-wide assemblies and PBIS. There are so many things that go into that, and all of those pieces are the ones that I was explaining that the virtual academy students will still be invited to participate in, because we want to make sure that they feel supported. We have social workers and counselors at the school that will still be available to keep students in the virtual academy on their caseload. So those resources and wraparound supports are still available to students in the virtual academy. Did you have anything else to add on that, Tanya?
I don't think so. I like that you preface that by saying that Edgenuity does offer those courses or modules. Even if I'm struggling with anxiety, I know that the times that we're in right now, we've specifically built courses to deal with what we're all dealing with right now. And, you know, as an adult, it's very easy to say, we'll get through this. As a student, they might see this, you know, as a completely ridiculous, you know, occurrence. And, you know, with those resources, it could really help them get through the struggle that we're in right now. So that's certainly where we can offer that, even if it's, you know, a mini module to go over something specific, or an entire course on building character and leadership. So we do offer those, and, you know, we can certainly continue the conversation about what those courses are and, you know, how we offer those.
Thank you. All right, so our final slide, next steps. Many of you have already done this, but if you feel as though after hearing the information tonight that you wish to sign your child up for the virtual academy, please know that we have a very stringent deadline of August 14th. We will not be extending that deadline. We really have to get those applications in so that we know how to make decisions about staffing and support. So please make sure that you go back and find the communication that explains to you how to register for the virtual academy. If we get to the point where we are moving to a hybrid or an all-in model, we will hold an additional parent meeting where we will discuss everything from how to log in to you know, when to expect your workbook, and just some things that we've discussed tonight that we would then need to give you additional information about. Again, we did record tonight's webinar. We will record the one again tomorrow. We will be posting it on our website so that if you feel like we went too fast or you want to reference something, you can feel free to look back. Again, we know we did not address every single question, but if you have additional questions that you feel like you have not been given an answer to, you can still use that Q&A Google form that you submitted the questions to earlier. And our work on our end is going to be to try to answer as many of those additional questions that people have. And then finally, some people accidentally enrolled for the virtual academy either because they weren't quite sure if they needed to or not to start their kid online in the fall, or there might be some folks who tonight after hearing this feel like it may not be the best fit for their child and they'd rather send them back face-to-face. If you already enrolled in the virtual academy and then you would like to unenroll, there's a form as well that we had already sent out, and we have the link again where you can unenroll and you will start online with the Reynoldsburg teachers and the plan on Google Classroom. So I think that's all we have for tonight. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope that we were able to answer a lot of your questions. I think the only other thing that I have to say is, you know, a lot of the decisions that we're making right now are extremely difficult. And I've never been in a situation in my 18 years of doing this work where you feel like no answer is the right answer. But what I can promise you is that we love and care about your children very, very, very much. And I sincerely mean that. And the decisions that we're making, we truly feel it's what's best for them. And I just wanted you to know that. So I don't expect you to agree with every single thing we're deciding or every single thing that we're saying, but please know that we have their best interest at heart and we're doing the best we can in an unprecedented time. Okay. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, if you need translation services, could we flip back to, Jackie's slide so that they can look one more time at the phone number and email? And Jackie, if you would like to translate real quick, just so that they know that we're going to sign off, but how to contact you one more time.
Ahora estamos terminando el webinar. Si tienes preguntas, estoy disponible ahora para contestarlas. Mi correo electrónico está aquí y mi número de teléfono. Me puede enviar un mensaje de texto o llamarme directo. Estoy disponible.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody, and tune in again tomorrow if you didn't get enough today. Thank you.
Thank you.